iShares and S&P Dow Jones Indices are proud to support the Wealth Management Edge podcast and financial advisors. With more than 1,250 products worldwide, iShares is dedicated to empowering millions of people to make their money work for them. Visit www.ishares.com to learn more. S&P Dow Jones Indices is the largest global resource for essential index-based concepts, data, and research, and home to iconic financial market indicators such as the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones Industrial Average. iShares and S&P Dow Jones Industries are unaffiliated entities.
Hello, all. I am Nabia Jenkins-Johnston. I'm the senior conference producer working with WealthManagement.com in all things Wealth Management Edge, Retirement Income Edge, specializing in inside ETFs and Wealth Stack. And I am very excited to be jumping into hosting duties for the WealthManagement.com Visionaries podcast. Thank you for joining us. Marguerita, I am just so pleased to be able to invite you as an honored guest to the WealthManagement.com Visionary Series podcast. This is a very personal one for me, right? Because I think that we know each other very well, but we kind of immediately connected. And so I wanted to really offer our audience the value that I've received from our relationship. And I want to start out by introducing everyone who does not know Marguerita Cheng, that's no one, right? Everyone knows you. But I want to do a quick introduction and then give you a moment, talk about your current role and a little bit of your history. So we know you're Chief Executive Officer for Blue Ocean Global Wealth, and that's been about 10 years. But talk to us about the journey. Talk to us about what led you here and why you're so passionate about what you do.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for having me. It is truly an honor, and I'm so excited for our conversation.
I think that our audience will be able to benefit from the ways that you've been able to really create balance and craft a personal brand that is truly authentic and is focused on your personal goals and still producing in terms of all of the ROI that we consider important. So tell us a little bit about what you did before Blue Ocean. What was your path in terms of financial services in general?
So sure, I think it's important to take a step back. So I am the first one in my mom's side of the family to graduate from a 4-year university. And so I graduated with a double degrees, East Asian language and literature and finance. And I truly believe I'm one of those people who is both right brain and left brain. So if someone asks me, hey, I really need to know how standard deviation works, I will teach them how to calculate that. But if someone says, you know what, I really don't care, can you just tell me what I need to do? I can explain things to them in a way that is respectful, caring, empathetic, and engaging. So I knew I didn't really know about the separate, distinct discipline of personal financial planning. My first job was writing this newsletter out of school for English-speaking investors, and I did that in my 20s, and something felt missing. And I said to myself, this is really important about the journey. I recognized that people, even though I was one of those kids going 17 on 40, I was like, who in the world is going to take me seriously? What do I know about retirement? So I worked really hard to help my husband with his career pass the CPA exam, get our financial house in order, pay down his student loans, credit cards, buy a house, have 2 kids. And then I was like, you know what? I feel like I have some street credibility. That's when I joined a large firm, and I intentionally picked this large firm because they had a focus on planning. Listen, I know that we must invest and encourage our clients to invest to reach their goals, but I didn't just want to work for some place that was just focused on assets under management. And I know, particular for people from diverse multicultural communities, risk management, insurance is really important, but I didn't want to just work somewhere where it was all about insurance. I believed in planning. So I worked there for 14 years. And then I was like, you know what? I feel like the world is shifting. Where I am is not a bad place. It's not. I love working in the profession. No buts. And remember, I studied East Asian language and literature and finance. I like working in a profession, but there's a lot I want to do to help the profession. So I want to work in the profession and on the profession. And that's when I realized, it's very, very scary. I'm a very quiet person. People must have thought, oh my God, she's so impulsive. I thought about it. I wasn't rash. I planned. Remember, I'm a planner. I'm like, that's it. I'm going to start my journey to independence and launch my own firm. So that's what I did.
This is, I love this. I love the question of the journey. And it's something that I generally include in my conversations, especially in initial conversations, right? We know WealthManagement.com and specifically our events are successful because of the connections that we have with people like you, right? And so what we're trying to do is get your knowledge and your experience and then put that on the front stage. So I think that the journey to running your own firm and aligning those initial interests, right? You talk about a focus on sort of cultural experience and the importance of diversity. And you said working on the business, right? As well as working in the business. I think about that and I thought of you as the perfect example, in my opinion, of how to create the space that you'd like to see. And so I want to ask a little bit for everyone who, and I think that's anyone who has a perspective that's a little different, that stands outside from perhaps what people see every day in the financial industry. What can we do to create those spaces? What can we do to create real balance and, perhaps use our differences as our superpowers, right? So you mentioned being quiet, that you're sometimes considered quiet. Can you tell me how you're able to work in this industry and really at this point are both a pioneer and a veteran and have a voice that maybe some would consider quiet and yet have it be so bold and have it and find success in rooms where, it may be hard to hear your voice spoken out loud. What have you done to create that space for yourself and use that quiet voice to kind of make a greater impact?
Oh my goodness, thank you so much for the question. I mean, this is always evolving, and I know it can be scary. Believe me, I think that there's going to be some times where I may want to speak up and out. And there's other times where I may not want to speak up and out, not because I'm shy, not because I'm scared. I just really need that time to reflect so I can be really concrete. I think the number thing that all of us can do is open our hearts and minds. I know it sounds silly, but when I think about when I decided I wanted to become a financial planner, my son, I'm serious, when I went on interviews, I just gave birth to Christian July 13th. I was interviewing, I don't know, around October, between September and October. So it didn't look like I just had a baby. I was kind of scared to tell people that I didn't just have a baby, but I have two babies. I have almost a 3-year-old and almost a 6-month-old. At that time, Christian was like maybe 3 months old and Serena was maybe like not even quite 2.5. So I would say the first thing that all of us can do is expand our minds as to what we think a successful financial planner looks like, right? And as well as think about what skills we value in a financial planner, like good listener, hardworking, attention to detail, patience. Well, guess what? A mom is that too. Anybody can be that. So I'd say the first thing that we can do is open our minds, right? The second thing that we can do is understand that, yes, there are rules. And just because my journey is different for yours, or I come from a different background, doesn't mean that I can't relate or connect with you, and vice versa. I always look for, I think this is the power of growing up in a multicultural, multiracial, ethnic family. You're always like adapting, and you're able to relate and connect with your family. It might not be perfect, but remember, it's family. So I think that's important. And then the times when I was quiet, it wasn't so much that people doubted me. Sometimes I doubted myself because I didn't see anybody like me. So my North Star was and is, I truly believe financial planning transforms lives. You can call me at 3 a.m. and I'm going to say financial planning transforms lives. And I truly believe that everyone deserves access to competent ethical advice. Those are my North Stars. And I think when you're sincere and genuine, and even when times were tough and people told me, hey, you're too quiet, you're not aggressive enough. Hey, Marguerita, you know what? You're a lousy financial advisor. Your whole problem is you spend too much time asking questions, listening. You're really lousy at sales because you spend so much time listening and building relationships. You don't know how to ask for the sale. And that is true. I was a little bit scared about asking for the sale because I didn't want to be perceived as that aggressive salesperson. But once that I realized that financial planning is about helping people, it's like a light went off. It was transformational. So, gosh, I know I said a lot there, but what all of us can do is be open. And the other thing, for those of us who are trying to make a way, there's going to be times where you want to speak up and out, and there's other times where you just want to be quiet. So there was a time early on in my career where I felt like it was okay to advocate for myself. It was a little bit scary, but I was like, you know what? I have to do this. And as an example, some people said, well, how can you be successful? You got these 2 kids. And I was really quiet. And I said, you know what? You should be glad I have these 2 kids. Like, I don't need to stop and get pregnant. They're not going anywhere. Somehow I have to make this work. But it's not that, and I want to give these people a pass. I don't believe that they were intentionally trying to be mean to me. So you have, sometimes people are curious and sometimes people say things like, well, how can you do that? It's not that they don't think you can do that. They genuinely are curious. So in this case, I really wanted to give people the benefit of doubt. So my motivation to continue to work in the business and on the business is I really do want to make it, I do want to make it easier for the people who come after me and behind me, because I want them to know that, yes, women, moms, people returning from the military, people from underrepresented communities and backgrounds whose stories may differ can succeed in this profession. We need you. We need people, because money's personal, and as those stories help us connect.
Oh, Marguerita, this is exactly why I wanted to take the time to speak with you today. I think it's important to learn how we can both be ourselves, how we can be individual and represent our principles. And so I wanted to ask a little bit, as you were speaking, really about some of the challenges, right? Some of the challenges that come up, or what look like challenges in the very beginning. So maybe for you, it was perception. It was the perception that if you were a mom, especially a mom with two youngsters, that you wouldn't be able to connect or to, really be productive in the way that we're expected to be productive at work. How can our audience see potential challenges, right? Because you were able to turn that around and say internally for yourself, I am already using the skills that would make me successful in this industry: listening, connecting, being an advocate, being focused on a sort of a customizable, personalized approach to advising that I think is absolutely needed and makes the difference today. How can we use personal challenges, or what may look like obstacles, and actually turn them around? What are your thoughts on that?
Sure. So I do think about a lot of my limitations early on. And as I reflect, I'm like, oh my goodness. So, for example, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I certainly don't know how to play golf. I don't have very good coordination. And I actually didn't really know much about sports. So, I didn't know about like American football. And I learned a lot, and I learned to really love basketball and March Madness. So sometimes people may say, with team building exercise in the office, I didn't feel like I understood what was going on. And sometimes I didn't feel that I fit in. I don't think people intentionally excluded me, but we think a lot. And I understand this is 99, 2000, 2001. In some ways, it's not that long ago because I feel like this happening. So I think it's important to have different opportunities for people to connect. So I'm an introvert. I told you, quiet. Sometimes just because I may not want to go out somewhere doesn't mean that like I'm antisocial. I'm happy like having a conversation with you, talking about a movie, talking about music, like one-on-one. So I think that when we also talk about limitations, it was hard for me to like network at night, right? That's a negative. But what's a plus? A plus is I recognize that my first job out of school, I wrote a newsletter for English speaking investors. So the plus is I like to write. And the plus is also leaders eventually did come around and support me because I followed certain protocol. Like I wouldn't write anything and put it out there without asking permission. And so people recognize that, okay, maybe it's not appropriate for, maybe Rita isn't like the best networker at night and can't go to like happy hour and these types of events, but she can blog and write and create educational materials and engage with people in a different way. So I think I do recognize that I did have limitations, but I also have strengths, meaning I'm quiet. I also bought my own laptop because I wanted to, at that time, laptops weren't provided to every advisor. I'm a planner. I saved money. So I bought myself a laptop so that I could do my financial plans at night, and I could be people or phones during the day. So I could meet people for coffee instead of lunch, or meet people for breakfast instead of happy hour. So it was, yes, no doubt there's things that I couldn't do, but instead of focusing on what I couldn't do, focus on what I can do. I can meet for coffee. I can meet for lunch. I can blog and write and connect with people and share stories. So I think that there was a period in time where I was like a little bit nervous, about sharing what it's like to be from Gen X, caring for aging parents and relatives, as well as caring for kids. And I realized it is okay for me to share these stories, not because I think I'm so great. It makes me more relatable, and people can see, oh, she's human. Remember, people do business with those they like and trust. And they will like and trust you if you're authentic, of course, but most importantly, if you're relatable, if there's something you connect. So that was like really helpful to me.
I love hearing about the importance of being someone that is likable and trustworthy. And you're absolutely right that this is a kind of a superpower in terms of hitting our business goals, in terms of being productive, because our clients need to trust us, right? Especially as financial advisors and being in the financial services industry. Can you tell me a little bit about what you have seen to be some of those, some of the most important traits for connecting with clients, for establishing trust? What does your experience in terms of aging parents, as you mentioned? We talk a little bit about the sandwich generation for everyone out there who's interested in retirement planning. We know that you may have children and also be looking after your parents and advancing age. You will be speaking at the Retirement Income Edge conference in December in Nashville, Tennessee. Can you tell me a little bit about what you would, share from your own experience and from your own work, right, with clients? What's been the most important to gain trust, especially when it comes to retirement planning?
I think the first thing when it comes to building trust is recognize clients are coming to you because they want help. It's really important. I know this sounds so silly, but just to create a safe, inclusive, judgment-free zone. So and I can be really concrete. In some communities, it may seem a little bit selfish to save all this money for yourself when everyone else may be struggling. Now, I know that the best thing that we can do for ourselves is take care of ourselves for self-care. But in some communities, that can be perceived as being a little bit selfish. So it's really important that we remove shame. If you see a client who maybe needs to be saving more for retirement or other goals, and you notice that there's expenditures, don't make it an interrogation. They may be helping family with medical expenses. They may be helping a relative, family, friends with costs associated with higher education, not necessarily paying their tuition, but book money, these kinds of things. So the first thing is it's important that we as advisors don't impose our values on others. I can be honest here, like the pandemic was very hard on my family. My husband is from Indonesia and his mom died not from COVID, but because of complications from COVID. She was not able to leave Indonesia to go to Malaysia or Singapore for treatment for diabetes. What does that have to do with anything? Indonesia was hit very hard. I'm a CFP pro. I send money to my children's nanny. Now, I'm a planner, I'm sharing that. So if you're working with people from a diverse, multicultural background, it's really important to just allow them to speak, allow them to verbalize and vocalize their concerns. Like, don't interrupt their flow, right? Because you'll learn so much from their flow. And sometimes just creating that space, time is precious, time is money, but sometimes just creating a space where you're just listening to people is so valuable. Sometimes on the phone, people be like, Rita, are you still there? I'm like, yeah, I didn't want to interrupt. Like, I didn't want to interrupt your flow. I think that is something that is incredibly important. And I would say that's something I'm really proud of. I know that we can't be all things to all people, but even if you give someone 15 minutes, remember I said I'm really passionate about ensuring that people have access to competent ethical advice, even if it isn't the right season for them. Even if I am not the right planner for them, because I focus on planning first, it's not about being a people pleaser, but I really want their interaction to be helpful and meaningful. So they understand the power of what financial planning can do for them, even if the timing isn't right. So I do hope I answered the question. That's what I really care about. Like, I want my legacy to be that, like, that I helped people access that advice. And for people who wanted to break into the profession, I don't want them to survive. I want them to thrive.
Oh, absolutely. I think that you definitely answered my question, and you've given financial advisors so much to think about in terms of the importance of some of those skills we sometimes call soft skills, but can really make the difference both in client retention, and as we talk about and look at retirement, even in the transition perhaps from the original decision maker to the wife or to the children, and can really be a part of your ongoing success as a firm, making sure that you are focusing on the future, right? So I wanted to make sure that I asked a little bit about what it means to work with clients who may be in the process of that transition, what will it mean for advisors to perhaps be speaking or making decisions with the wife, or making decisions with children of the original client? What skills do we need to focus on as we make some of those transitions and work with a new generation, or with the great number of women who will be managing a large number of assets in just about 10 or 15 years, even more so than they are today?
Well, the first thing I wanted to say is I truly believe it's never too early to plan, and I believe it's never too late. So you asked a question about like sandwich and multi-generational. As you know, I'm not the type of person that is just going to engage in conflict for the sake of conflict. I am not going to say anything bad about another advisor, another firm. This is a true story. I've shared it before. It is okay to share it again. So I was working with a daughter who's from Generation X. She's my contemporary. And her parents had a financial advisor. And I didn't press the issue. I didn't say, hey, what about your parents' financial advisor? But one day came and she said, you know what? I was with my parents over the weekend and my dad wants to meet you. And I said, sure, I'm happy to talk to him. At this time, her father was 70. Mom wasn't quite 70. She's 60. So they're 60 and 70. He's like, I realized I wanted to make a change. I see everything that you've done for my daughter. And it's not that our current advisor is bad, but I know that there may be a day when I'm not here. And I want to know that my wife is being taken care of. So I met the couple, they became clients. And over time, I was always respectful. I always included both the husband and wife. And then I have shared this story before because it's so profound and I want everyone to really understand this. She's a school teacher. She's very passionate about education. So we share that passion. But she didn't necessarily come to the meetings with the financial planner because she didn't feel comfortable. She didn't know what to ask. So she started to come to our meetings and she'd bring a notebook. And the husband was not being disrespectful. He was like, I'm so proud of you for coming here and like taking notes, taking an interest. She said, I'm taking an interest. And I have shared this story before because Rita actually takes an interest in me. That was almost 10 years ago. And I mean it from the bottom of my heart, folks. It is never too early to start. It's never too late. Now, I was telling you about the clients who are in retirement. Well, it also works the other way. One of my clients sent me a message and said, would you take the time to meet with our son? He's 23 years old. I met with their son for 15 minutes via Zoom. Right. And I do this with a lot of the children of my clients. I helped them set up a Roth IRA, recent grad. Folks, when you treat these young adults with respect, they're going to show up prepared. Like they show up, they have questions, they address me about Ms. Cheng. They're so appreciative. I don't violate confidentiality because they're the client, right? But somehow they're going to tell their parents like what happened. Not in a bad way. The parents send me a message like, Rita, we just want to thank you for taking the time to meet with our son. It really means a lot. That is how you engage the next generation, right? I mean, you talk to them a little bit about how to pay his student loans, how to set up Roth IRA, coach him on how to use DocuSign, 15 minutes, right? I'm not the parent's financial advisor. I'm the family's certified financial planner.
Oh, I cannot imagine a better last line, and a line to really sort of bring together everything we've discussed today. We are the family's financial advisor, and what we know about wealth planning and retirement planning is it's about life plans, right? We are literally helping folks to create a plan for their best life. So I am so thankful, Rita, for joining me today. I can't wait for the WealthManagement.com audience to hear all about your journey, your experience, and really excited for you to join us at Retirement Income Edge in Nashville in December. Thank you so much.
iShares and S&P Dow Jones Indices are proud to support the Wealth Management Edge podcast and financial advisors. With more than 1,250 products worldwide, iShares is dedicated to empowering millions of people to make their money work for them. Visit www.ishares.com to learn more. S&P Dow Jones Indices is the largest global resource for essential index-based concepts, data, and research, and home to iconic financial market indicators such as the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones Industrial Average. iShares and S&P Dow Jones Industries are unaffiliated entities.